Last year, and this year, I guess, there have been a number of protests of KKK members, white supremacists, the alt-right, a nice panorama of different groups with oddly similar concerns, and in a number of instances, it has led to violence, sometimes with counter-protesters. Now, in a lot of cases, those people then just get away. Despite the fact that photos are taken of them, very often video is taken, it is difficult to track down these people, especially when so many of the protesters and counter-protesters wear face-obscuring masks and bandanas and things like that. But at least in one case, it looks like there will be some justice. I'm talking about Richard W. Preston, a Maryland man who identifies himself as a Ku Klux Klan imperial wizard. So you get some idea of where he's coming from.
By the way, you have to be voted that. You don't just,
you do have to be voted?
Yeah, that's it's through the Klan. There's Grand Wizard, Imperial Wizard. So
interesting.
He had to. He didn't just bestow that upon himself. That was hard earned.
But I hear he actually lost a popular vote. But
right.
Thankfully,
thankfully,
yes.
you're represented by clans throughout the country. You know?
Exactly. So he was at one of the Unite the Right rallies last year that was particularly violent, and he brought his gun, and somebody filmed him doing this. You're seeing him there in the bandana on his head with body armor. He pulls out his gun and fires a shot. So I hope that you were able to follow that. So there was someone farther into the crowd that was a little bit obscured who had an aerosol can and was making flames, which is, let's admit, that's a dangerous thing to do. I probably wouldn't do that. Witnesses say that he wasn't doing it at people, he wasn't close to them, but still, I probably wouldn't do that. But I would do that before I would pull out my gun in a crowded march and then fire a shot, just because I saw an African-American man and it enraged me so. And then he just casually just walks away.
With people who are just glad to have him back too. That's my favorite part of it, is nobody tackled him, nobody stepped in. He's like, I'm just gonna get right back in line here and go about my business.
Yeah, thankfully there was the individual who actually filmed that. He didn't step in and intervene, nor should he have, because this is the guy who routinely fires his gun into crowds.
Fired a gun, run.
Yes, so thankfully he was actually found guilty for illegally firing a weapon, which was caught. It's gonna be difficult to defend yourself after that video comes out. He's scheduled to be sentenced Wednesday and faces up to 10 years in prison and a $100,000 fine. I think it's an open question what he's gonna end up actually getting, because there's a huge range in potentially what you can get for the particular crime that he committed. But that's scary stuff. He feels so emboldened to go into a crowd like this, and he's surrounded by some counter-protesters, but largely a lot of people who agree with him, and he feels like he can fire off a gun and he might just be fine.
Yeah, oh well, he was fine. Had there not been the video
That's
there,
true.
obviously.
Without the video,
he just went back into the crowd and with people, and nobody it seemed to be running after him. There wasn't law enforcement chasing him that we saw. I mean, it was a short piece of video. They're always on the edge with this stuff. I mean, it's always about to happen. I covered one of these in Florida. Richard Spencer, not related to Richard Preston, though both dicks. Excuse me. He was giving a speech in Gainesville, Florida. Earlier that day, I interviewed some of the people that were with him, some of the white supremacist, Klansman type young kids. Later in the day, they were arrested for attempted murder for shooting into a crowd. Later in the day, I mean, the people that I talked to in the morning who seemed, they never seemed reasonable.
What did you say to them, Michael?
I know, it was my fault. I caused it. I got them very angry.
Yeah, well, at least they were caught.
They were caught, arrested, and I don't know what the disposition of it was, but one of them was certainly in for attempted murder. One may have been released.
Yeah. So scary.
Yeah, it's always a possibility, though.
Yeah, and so we've talked on this show previously about the explosion of various extremist groups over the past couple of years. Obviously, there have been rallies like this. Protesters have been killed by these sorts of right-wing protesters, and it's scary to look out there and to see that. I mean, we were afraid during Trump's rallies that this seems like irresponsible rhetoric, and there's a lot of unnecessary violence and demonization of the others. And it hasn't gone away. I mean, they're still doing this. There was crosses being burned a couple of weeks ago in a big protest.
His candidacy allowed this. It facilitated this again in America. Not that it had gone away, and racism certainly hadn't gone away, but he was saying, in essence, by not coming down on the people that were doing it and taking their support, the support of David Duke, et cetera, saying it's all right, it's permissible.
Yeah, I mean, look, for this sort of thing to happen and to work, there has to be a certain percentage of the population that is receptive to the message. But humans are flawed creatures, and there always is going to be. But they do want leaders, and the leaders have an effect.